It is called The Personal Treasures of Bernard and Shirley Kinsey. The collection features rare pieces which until now have been tucked away in a private gallery.
We are at the home of Bernard and Shirley Kinsey to take a look at the Kinsey Collection.
The Kinsey Collection pays homage to African Americans who helped build and transform the United States.
Once scattered by history and now gathered in a single collection, a cultural inheritance for African Americans.
Tonight, a conversation about the intersection between art and history with Bernard and Shirley Kinsey.
Documenting the African American experience from the early 17th century through the tumultuous civil rights era, the Kinseys have had a 30-year love affair with collecting.
The Kinsey Collection started 30-plus years ago.
We didn't start out for this to be a collection, but we're delighted that it has happened that way, because the more we began to understand and know about our history, the more we felt that other people needed to be touched and know about it too.
Some of the items were passed down through their family. Some were purchased at auctions, and others were acquired during the Kinseys' numerous trips around the world.
We've been to 90 countries and 6 continents, and we basically collected something from all of these 90 countries. But our real focus has always been, how do we speak to the African American experience?
Their collection isn't only African American, but mostly paintings, sculpture, and documents from the distant past and the not so distant.
I love this letter. A letter from Malcolm X to Alex Haley, 1963.
Over the years, they realized they were collecting a story.
When we came to the Americas from Africa, how did we evolve? And that evolution is both painful and wonderful. And putting that together is what we tried to do here.
It's been quite a journey for a couple who met as college kids at predominantly black Florida A&M in 1963, when students were fighting for civil rights.
I met her after she got out of jail.
They've grown so close.
Demonstrating. So, sit-ins.
They finish each other's sentences. So you knew she was something special from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Both now are retired from Xerox, where Bernard rose to become vice president. He's now a much-in-demand business consultant.
Fast forward to the present, the couple holding a news conference in Washington, D.C. as their collection, the shared treasures of Bernard and Shirley Kinsey, now greets visitors to the busiest museum in all the world, the Smithsonian.
I have opened numerous exhibitions throughout my career, but few have excited, few have challenged, few have moved me as much as the Kinsey Collection.
As the first African American ever to publish a book of poetry.
This is my first time seeing the collection since I did the recording for it. So it's kind of fantastic. It's a wonderful way to show that we too are part of the fabric of the making of this nation, which sometimes I think gets forgotten in the telling of the American stories.
Efforts like this are efforts to fill that gap. This is really important for young people. Knowing who you are is the best grounding you can get.
I am immeasurably proud of my parents. Every day I learn something from them continually. I get to work with them, and I never, if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I'd be working with my parents, there wouldn't have been a chance. But it's been remarkable to see their partnership.
The Kinseys have reached a stage in their lives where they can afford to indulge their passions, one even greater than collecting, sharing. Together, they have raised more than $22 million for scholarships at historically black colleges.
You know that black people have been a part of everything that's happened in the Americas almost from the beginning. And having that connection with the past and with history is what really creates this sense of strength inside of us, and to know that we have this identity and this lineage that is so powerful. We think what we have is the beginning of this story about this wonderful, wonderful race called African Americans that came out of a terrible situation.
I want our people to be empowered by all the accomplishments all the things that we did in building this country. And as Bernard said, sometimes let everybody know we got dibs here.
Yeah.
Okay? And we didn't always come here as slaves. We came here as free people initially.
Thank you. I want to start by thanking Skip Rutherford and Nikolai and the Clinton School of Public Policy for having us, and for each of you all to come out and spend your lunch with us. I've done this 100 times, but it always, when I get up here, I say, we just have to bring it today. We got all of you here. But I want to start with thanking Emily for that wonderful introduction. Generally, we don't have anybody introduce us anymore. We show the video. And frankly, we've done so much in our lives, I forgot about a lot of those other careers I had, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But it's a good life, and I highly recommend it. Alexander the Great says, when I die, bury my hands outside of the coffin, because I want people to know that I'm not taking anything with me. Stay with that for a second, okay? Stay with that for a second. Because all of us have been given too much of it not earned, you follow me? And we need to be about sharing and offering our expertise and resources to help others. And that's what Shirley and I and Khalil have been about for the last 10 years. And with that, I want you to introduce, we just celebrated our 49th anniversary last month. The best part of my day and night, my wife, Shirley Kinsey. Shirley, let everybody. And we're here on a sad day because Shirley on Saturday lost her father. And we'll be leaving tomorrow for Orlando, but she wanted to be here as a part of this kickoff. So let's all reach out and everybody have your right hand out and reach out to Shirley and send her some love and prayer as she goes to Orlando tomorrow to be with her family in the interment of her father. So, baby, we love you. And I wish you're going to be here, but I wish we were going to be with you, frankly, but that's not possible, so we're going to be here. I'm the luckiest guy going because I have two of the people that I love most that I work with every day, and that's our Shirley and our son, Khalil. Khalil, stand up and let everybody see you. And what you're going to see on Friday, 6 o'clock at the Mosaic Templars, is Brian McDade's work and Khalil Kinsey's work in terms of curating the Kinsey show. We call it a show or exhibition. We've been in 21 cities. We've had 5 million people. It's been translated in 4 languages: Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, and English. Get your head around that for a minute, okay? So, and I don't want to get in my talk yet but this is really going to be about expanding your view of the African-American story. Okay, the African-American contributions, okay? And to try and cut down some of these barriers that exist in Little Rock and most of America still about race. They have a saying that 20% of Barack Obama's problem is about race, and then they say the other 80% is about race also, because that's the truth. Because almost everything we're dealing with today politically is if you really tease it out, it's all about race. And what we decided to do was to really look at this from the untold stories and the accomplishment and achievement. And that's what this is about. That's what the Kinsey Collection is about. We have a couple young ladies here from Mosaic. One who's no longer with Mosaic, but is the real reason why we're here at Mosaic is Ceresia Cole. Ceresia, stand up and let everybody see you. And Ceresia is one of these young ladies that we met a couple years ago in Charlotte, and she said she wanted the Kinsey Collection to come to Little Rock. And we've heard this more than you can believe, and we we decided, we always say we come where we're invited, okay? And if you want us to come, we'll go through that process. And she followed through. And we're just been a great experience working with Teresa and now with Key. And I want to give you your proper due. But Kinsey Fletcher, stand up and let everybody see, is the interim director of Mosaic. And it's been a very smooth transition from Teresa to what we call Key. And I tell you, we have a show that I think is going to knock your socks off, okay? I tell people all the time, I say, you're going to see stuff you're going to never, ever see again, period, semicolon, okay? So if you're into history, if you're into seeing these remarkable stories of accomplishment and achievement, not about just African Americans, but about Americans and the building of this country, then that's what you're going to get, and get a whole lot of on Friday at 6 o'clock. Now, we have a saying, tell them you told them, and then tell them again, okay? Because that's what we're going to be doing. I want you all, when you leave here, to go tell all of your friends that you need to be at Mosaic Templars. When? Friday, 6 o'clock, okay? So we're going to keep doing that until everybody says, I got it, okay? All right. So, why are we in here at Mosaic? First of all, Mosaic itself is a historic place. 9th and Broadway, the 1883, over 90,000 policyholders. Can you imagine little old Mosaic Templars? Represents one of the biggest businesses in the South, okay? Right here in Little Rock. And I am so pleased that you all were smart enough to preserve that building. I met John Kane today, who was one of the guys that stepped up about making sure that that building was preserved, okay? So, if you talk about Little Rock, in 1721, of the 47 people that founded Arkansas, there were 6 black folks. Get your head around that for a minute, okay? And what we find in every city we go in Los Angeles, 26 of the 44 people that founded Los Angeles were black. They spoke Spanish, but they were of African descent. Same thing in Chicago. Follow me? Santa Clara, San Jose. So we've been at this thing a long time. The problem is the history books have decided not to put us in it or decided to write us out of it. And it's because of this bifurcated stance of segregation and racism that exists in this country. So what we want to talk about here today is really, Shirley and I live our lives on 2 simple principles. To whom much is given, much is required, and a life of no regrets. So here's what I want to say. I want everybody to say the first one. To whom much is given, much is required, and a life of no regrets. And we feel, because we've been blessed so much, that we have to offer our resources and talents to others. And that's what I want. So underneath the Kinsey family is this notion of helping others, because I think that's what we have to do. And then there are 3 things to have a successful life: something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. So I want everybody to say that. The 3 things for a successful life is something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to, okay? We were in Kathmandu, Nepal in 1980, and a Buddhist priest said that, and I captured pen and paper. So what I'm going to ask you to do is get pen and paper out or get your phones out. So when there's a thought that you said, I wish I got, I want you to have it, okay, and capture it, okay? All right. So you'll be able to purchase the Kinsey Collection book here to our left, 198 pages, a lot more than you'll see at Mosaic on Friday, 6 o'clock. Did I say it again? Okay, all right. Tell them you told them. Okay, all right, okay, all right, all right. Here's what the Kinsey Collection does. The Kinsey Collection strives to give our ancestors a voice, a name and personality, enabling viewers to understand the challenges, obstacles, triumphs, and accomplishments, and the extraordinary sacrifices of African Americans in building this country. Because sometimes I think we've forgotten what our people went through to do this thing called getting us to where we are today. Now, this bill of sale, which you'll see on Friday night at 6 o'clock at Mosaic, okay, is what really started this, this journey for me. My business partner, Wallace, said to me, he said, Bernard, I found this document in my aunt's attic in Alabama. It's been locked up since 1957. Would you like to have it? I said, sure, send it to me. The next day I opened the FedEx, and it's this document of this African-American man, 18 years old, being sold for $550. It changed me fundamentally, because when I pulled the document out, I felt I was holding this man in my hands, his life. And the first thing I asked myself is, how did he get in this predicament? And by extension, how did black folks get in this extension? Stay with me, okay? Because you have to really get your head around somebody else owning somebody. And until you get your head around that, you don't fully understand America, okay? So I began right then, this is 25, 27 years ago, reading everything I could read. So by extension, how did we get in this predicament? The other extension was, how did we become black in America? Stay with that for a second. Now, you ever thought about that? I thought about it. So trying to answer those questions led us to the Kinsey Collection. And when I talk about public policy, Skip, this is what I'm talking about, okay? This is what I'm talking about. How do we get to where we got to? So this is the nub, what I call the nub of the problem, okay? This is why we fight so much between what the Constitution says and what our reality is in this country. So that's what we are trying to do through these documents, books, and manuscripts, okay? And what I came across was a story about an African named John Punch, along with two other indentured servants in 1640, that decided that they were not going to pay off their servitude to Hugh Gwynn the farmer. Well, what happens when you don't pay people back, they want to get their money back. Because when Jamestown was formed in 1607, King James sent everybody over on his ships, but he wanted them to pay for it. And you paid for it through labor, because that's all you had, right? And these three indentured servants owed additional time to the farmer, Hugh Gwynn. When they escaped, they lasted probably a day in the wilderness. In 1640, there's not a whole lot of places you can go to run away. So they were captured. The Dutchman got 29 lashes and an additional year on his servitude. The Scotchman got 1 year and 29 lashes. And the African, John Punch, received 29 lashes and was enslaved for the rest of his life. It is the earliest known beginning of color and slavery occurring in this country. So, that's how we became black in America, 1640. And by extension, Skip, public policy, that's when racial profiling started. Stay with me, okay? Now, get your Google out if you don't believe me, because the thing that the Kinsey Collection does and the family does, we deal with FACT. So everything you're going to see at Mosaic on Friday at 6 o'clock is FACT. In other words, when we say primary source documents, we're not saying what somebody said it was. We're saying, here's what it is. You read it, right? That's what this is about. So when you can read it, and I'll give you an example. George Reiner, a Harvard Egyptologist, discovered the pyramids in Egypt in the 20s. Because he was a segregationist, he couldn't get his head around that there were black people that actually built the pyramids. Even though the Nubians, black folks, conquered Egypt and ruled it for 25 centuries. You follow me? You go to the Sudan today, what you'll see more pyramids in the Sudan than in Egypt. Now, some Egyptians don't think they're black either. We ain't mad at them. They black too. You follow me? Okay? So, but the reality is, if you read his books, you would see not that the pyramids were done by people of African descent, you would see light-skinned Libyan Egyptians. That's what's in the book. So if you were reading about the pyramids, you'd come away saying, ain't no black folks had nothing to do with that. And much of what we get in our history books was done that way. There's a saying, they're the stories that made America, and they're the stories that America made up. Let's everybody say that. They're the stories that made America, and they're the stories that America made up. And I will submit to you almost everything that you read in your history, sociology, psychology books associated with color in this country was made up. I'll stand on that right now, okay? Because the fact of the matter is that we have documented this in terms of historical record, which you'll see on Friday at 6 o'clock, okay? All right, so we have a vocabulary. Anytime you see the word discovered, strike it out. Why? You can't discover something that somebody's already living in, okay? When Columbus, quote, discovered or conquered the New World, there were 10 million Indians. And let me tell you what, if you don't get that right, you start the story wrong. First of all, you say that these people's homes didn't matter. But once you give them their place, they matter. And that's what this is about, that we matter, okay? When you see the word mercantilism, it's a euphemism for kidnapping. Because that's what it was. There were over 12 million people kidnapped. 12 million of us kidnapped in America, from Africa and brought to America. And then when you see the word enslave, I want you to say enslave. So I'm going to ask you to say this. Say enslave. Say it again. Again. Every time you see that word, if you would just offer enslaved instead, it'll change your view of that passage in that book. Because as long as you say slave, you're pushing that person as an object. Nobody woke up in Africa and said, you know what, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to give my life away and I ain't going to never be free again and I'm not going to see my folks. It didn't happen that way. People were stolen. They were taken. They were imprisoned, okay? And the last one, every time you see the word plantation, and I see it around here, strike it out and put prison. Because the Rolling Hills plantation doesn't sound the same when you say the Rolling Hills prison. Because that's exactly what our people lived and died on in this country. So if you get your vocabulary right, what you're going to do, you start seeing a different story. Remember I talking about that 20/20 lens? That's what we're talking about. When you see this a little different. Okay, let's go. In America, your skin speaks before you do. What? John Punch. Everybody say John Punch. All right? That's what I'm talking about. And anybody say they're colorblind, you tell them, don't ever say that again. Because it's impossible. How you going to put on your clothes if you're colorblind? So, and white folks have the tendency to want to say that because they want to say, I ain't mad at you. Well, we ain't mad at you either. But let's don't play no games with each other, okay? On this notion of color. Because we know that you can identify the difference. And we know when you identify the difference, you end up with racial stereotypes, practices, and norms that tend to drive your decisions, even though some of them are subconscious or unconscious, okay? All right. The 3 P's, prejudice, power, and privilege. Okay, let's go. Prejudice means skin type. Your skin speaks before you do. If you can identify somebody by phenotype, you can make a decision about it. That's what happened in America. That's what we're talking about with your skin speaks before you do. Power is the the state being able to enforce the prejudice. And that's what's happened all over this country, particularly in the South, where we were able to take something like lynching or take something like property rights. Do you know that when black servicemen left the Army and the Navy, and they were not eligible for the GI Bill? It was against the law. You follow me? So people say, well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, give me some boots or something. You follow me? You know, it was 1968 before a black farmer got a loan in this country because the Farm Bureau discriminated against blacks. There's $1 billion settlement right now, Skip, you know about this, in the Senate that the Senate will not fund, that the black farmers sued to get the monies that have been held up over generations. Now, this ain't about ain't it awful? It's about facts. This whole generational wealth really creates what we call privilege. That's where privilege comes from. And every white person has it whether they want it or not. We ain't mad about it. We ain't mad at you on it. But you need to understand that that is operating. This legacy in America, I see it all the time. The guy said, well, my dad left me this business and now it's a bigger business. Well, that's where it's supposed to be. But if your dad left you some dreams, you still got dreams. You even got to wake up sometime to do something with them, okay? So we say privilege is like being born on third base and thinking you hit a triple. Because part of the problem in this country is that whites believe that because what they have, that they earned all of it. We're saying that's probably not true. You ended up on third base and you didn't hit a triple. But that's just the nature of the world we live in. But if we can get some understanding of that, we can begin to get more equity in this country. Now, the other concept we want to leave with, and let me just say this way, on Saturday at 3 o'clock, we're going to do the whole piece, what you didn't learn in high school history. We'll give you a little snippets right here, okay? So 3 o'clock on Saturday, that's the second one I want you to think about, okay? All right, 3 o'clock on Saturday, okay. But the myth of absence is this. The myth of absence says that black folks are invisibly present in this country. Let's everybody say invisibly present. What that means simply is that we're here, we're just not part of the story. We're not part of the narrative. We're not part of the picture. And because of that, public policy, Skip, operates like we aren't here to a large degree. You follow me? I've been here in Little Rock the third time enough to see how public policy works in this town. You follow me? Okay? So when you come out at 3 o'clock on Saturday, we'll talk more about the myth of absence, because this is a tease today to kind of get you kind of interested in coming back. Okay? So Jamestown was 1607. Everybody, what did I say? I said that almost everything you got in high school and college history was made up. This is a document that fortifies that. Jamestown was not the beginning of this country. St. Augustine was the beginning of this country. And the Kinsey family have the privilege of being able to have the oldest known document of the African American existence in this country. And you're looking at it. And you'll see it on when? Friday at 6 o'clock. Okay, all right, okay. And what this is of an African American girl named Estebanna being baptized in St. Augustine. Now let me give you the math on this. In 1565, Menendez discovered where? St. Augustine. On that ship, there were 800 conquistadors. That's what they discovered, they conquered, right? You just discovered, okay, all right. They all spoke Spanish. 300 were Africans. So you ask yourself, well, how in the hell did Africans get in Spain? Because the Moors ran the Iberian Peninsula for 700 years. Forgot that, right? So why wouldn't they be on the ships? You ever been to Grenada and Cordoba and seen what the black folks did there? It's extraordinary. You see? So this is all, but you got to come out when? Friday? Okay, all right, okay, all right, okay. And we were getting married before Jamestown. That's really even more extraordinary. So before Jamestown was founded, Augustine and Francisca were getting married. Is that extraordinary? So here's what we are. We're caretakers of this extraordinary story of accomplishment and achievement of African Americans. And that's what this is about, sharing. And Khalil's telling me I got to keep going. Okay, all right. When you come out on Saturday, we'll give you the whole story. But 1782, Ignacio Sancho, born on a slave ship, goes on to become an opera singer and a businessman. First person of African descent to vote in the election in the 18th century. Equiana, I love Equiana. Anybody that's reading a book about about the transatlantic slave trade is reading this brother whether you know it or not. Why? Because he's the only person that wrote a book that was below ship, below the deck. And I'll assure you, if you were below the deck, it's different than being above the deck on a slave ship, right? So you got to read this, brother. This is 1789. And what I love about these guys, England in the 18th century, they had no borders, you know, in Amazon. You had to subscribe. So the king and queen of England, the duke and duchess, anybody that was anybody were reading these brothers' books. They had 6 editions. Okay? That's what you're going to see when? Okay, all right. This is really incredible here. Slave insurance. I heard about this for years until I saw it. Then we bought it. Why? Because everything we're trying to do, as it says, build around FACT. Okay? We're not making it up. You just go read the didactics. Now, the show takes about 2 hours to see because we call it a reading show. Okay? Khalil, tell me to keep going. Okay, all right. I love this. The 3/5 Compromise. Everybody's heard about the 3/5 Compromise, right? You're going to get a chance to see it. And what they show you here is, let's see, where is this right here? Right here, 3/5 of slaves, right there. Okay? And this document had more to do about changing American life and affecting African Americans than any other document I know about. Because of what it did, it gave the Congress, the Supreme Court, and the presidency essentially to the South for 100 years. And we're dealing with this even today. So the historical record, as the Kinsey Collection lays it out, shows you how we got here. Okay. Any person may kill or destroy said slave, 1798, Warren County. This really speaks to the 1793 Fugitive Slave Law. We have 2.3 million people in jail, most of them of African American and Latino descent. We've gone from 300,000 in 1970 in prison to 2.3 million, okay? And this document is the reason, right here. Because this document says you're guilty until proven innocent. Now in America, it's supposed to be the other way around, right? But this document says that you can kill this person or persons, enslaved persons on sight, okay? You're going to see 12 years a slave, by Solomon Northup. How many of you saw the movie? This is the book, okay? And what it says is that he's living in Saratoga, having a good life as a free black person. There were over 800,000 free blacks when we had 4 million enslaved blacks here in the South. You had to play all of this out, okay? He goes to Washington, D.C., thinking he's got a job to do, and turns out he gets kidnapped. It happened all the time, okay? And once you were kidnapped, you had nothing. Why? Because your skin, speaks before you do, okay? You see this Dred Scott decision. So if you take the 1793 Fugitive Slave Law And it was really codified in Missouri with the Dred Scott decision, 1857. Okay? It says everything you want to know about how we got here. And this is how the Civil War started because of this document right here. Okay? Phyllis Wheatley, this is a young sister, September 1st, 1773. She had to have this book published in England because why? Because the founding fathers, this is what the hypocrisy of our founding fathers, would not want this young sister to have her book published here in America. So the Wheatley family took her to where? To England and had the book published. Okay? Okay. Benjamin Banneker, the first scientific book written by an African American. He also laid out Washington, D.C. A brilliant brother. Brilliant brother. You'll see that. Robert Duncanson, 1865. His painting is in a Buckingham Palace today. You follow me? The Queen of England, collected his work. Okay? Also, the Queen of Norway has his work. Charles Ethan Porter, and this just give you an idea. But what we have a section called Early Genius. Early Genius says, oh yes, we painted too. Oh yes, we painted too. And the reason you have to have the actual piece, because people wouldn't believe that black folks was painting during Jim Crow time, right? You say, man, you got to be smoking something or something. The fact of the matter is, when you have the goods, it changes the conversation. And that's what you and your kids and people that come are going to see this, and it's going to just challenge everything you've been taught, which is really what this is about, okay? Okay? Robert Bannister, this brother won the highest award for art in 1876, okay? What I love about this is 1870, right after the end of the Civil War, what do we have? We had congressmen, we had a black senator, and then we had 6 congressmen. But let me just say this, right here in Arkansas, you had 45 legislators from 1870 to 1889, right here, okay? But you know, well, I'm keep up. You got to come on Saturday to get that, okay? All right. And then you got the first senator from Mississippi in 1870. I'm just going to give him to you right quick. Henry Flipper. So we have in Henry Flipper's book, 1877, first graduate from where? West Point. Okay? Nobody spoke to him for 4 years. So we tell our young kids, how in the heck you can't graduate from high school? How in the hell you can't graduate from high school? When in fact, you have all the opportunities. And we were having, it was against the law in Mississippi in the 1840s to read. You follow me? Well into the 20th century. And here we have a young brother that decided that graduating was really what he was there for. Okay? Booker T. Washington, when Mosaic was dedicated, he spoke here in this town at 9th and Broadway. Yes. Okay? Come out and see his book. I'm gonna just go, well, I can't let you do this. Okay. All right. Let me tell you what we call this. We call this the original Al-Qaeda. Okay? Sit on that for a second. Because they terrorized this country, and black folks in particular, from 1866 almost up to now. You follow me? Why? And the reason I purchased this is because they had the hood off. You usually don't see it when they have the hoods off. And this is the result of the original Al-Qaeda in this country. The amount of what? Right. Lynchings that took place in this country. You had 145 right here in Little Rock. I want you to just get serious about your own work. It said, the only thing new is the history you don't know. Everybody say that. The only thing new is the history you don't know. I want you to get, interested in what this is. We've seen too many of these. This is the Cartier. This is the Medal of Honor. This is the brother, Lieutenant Mosley, U.S. Army. The Army, because of General Pershing being so racist, didn't want black folks fighting the Germans with guns because they thought brothers was going to fire on them, which wasn't true, but that's what they thought. So the French said, we want the Germans out of Paris. They hired, basically, the 369th Harlem Hellfighters, brothers, French uniformed and French guns, and these brothers went to work, and they were the first regiment to reach the Rhine River in World War I. Okay? 191 straight days of fighting. That's what the Harlem Hellfighters did. But we couldn't fight for America in American uniforms. It shows you how this thing plays out. Okay? Okay? Matthew Henson, first person to reach the North Pole. Marcus Garvey had 8 million followers in 1923. Okay? We're getting into the art world here. These are all of the Harmon Foundation. And what I love about these, if you read these, all of our artistic glory is in these catalogs. Because before then, there was no market for black folks to show their art. Matter of fact, black people didn't have any sense of blackness yet to begin to start painting their experience until James Porter and Elaine Locke from Howard really basically gave black people permission to go out and paint your existence. And that's when we got these remarkable bursts of color and styles and so forth and so on. Charles White. This is a great piece here. I want to show you something here. This is Thurgood Marshall in 1938. Roy Wilkins. That's why we got this, because, look at our people here. Okay? This is my dad. He sued the Palm Beach County School Board in 1941, so black kids could go to school for 9 months versus 6 months, because in the South and in Little Rock, black kids only went to school for 6 months and they picked whatever the crop was, cotton or beans or whatever it was. And my dad said, this doesn't make sense. How in the heck are our kids going to be able to compete if they go to school half the time? So he and other black educators in Palm Beach County hired Thurgood Marshall, and they won this case, and that case became the building block for Brown versus Board. You follow me? All right. And that's Brown versus Board. This is a hell of a document here. This is the abstract on Brown versus Board signed by the justices. I don't know how. This was a real find, okay? Got Martin Luther King, Malcolm, the Black Panthers. This is how Shirley was arrested, right? Because in the South, including Little Rock and Tallahassee, when we went to school in 1961 to 63, when Shirley came, you were really confined to that small area called the Hill, which was Florida A&M, okay? But you couldn't go off that campus, really, to speak of. And college kids all over the country are the reason why we brought these pernicious laws down, okay? The March on Washington, and we end here at Honor King and end racism, which is the day after he was killed in Memphis, which is what we consider the end of civil rights. So, okay? So that's it. Thank you so much. Oh, let me do, I got one more, I think. What do you do when you get new information? Huh? All right. Yes, Khalil. Oh, yeah, the typewriter. Thank you, sir.
No. Got time for questions?
Yeah, we'll tell you about the typewriter. If you come out when? Friday at 6. We have Dr. Maya Angelou's typewriter that she wrote all of her books. Our good friend Steve Soberoff, he loaned us this typewriter so we could bring it to Mosaic Templars so you could see it when? Friday night at 6 o'clock. Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, first of all, let's thank Bernard for it. Now, we got time for a couple of questions, and then we're going to do some book signings. So if anybody has any questions, otherwise you can go Friday at 6 and visit with him. But does anyone have a question? Anyone have a question?
Yeah, what's his name?
All right. If there are no questions, then I encourage you. I want to say this, Shirley. I just want you to know we're thinking of you. Thank you for being here with us. Clearly, this is a fabulous exhibit, and I know that they do all the collecting, have done all the collecting, but you've done the curating, and the people that have been to these exhibits have nothing but high praise on it. So for a young guy, you're doing a great job, and keep it up. Okay. So let's do our book signing, and if anyone has any personal things you want to say to the Kinseys, come over here and do so. Thank you all for being here.
Before we go,
Friday at 6.
I want to introduce Dr. and Mrs. Hearn with the Hearn Fine Gallery, Art Gallery here in Little Rock. Will you all stand up and let everybody see you? Okay? Archie Hearn and Garbo. Okay? All right? All right. And let me just say this. I know this. They have an extraordinary collection of African American art. So if you get an opportunity, you want to supplement what you see at Mosaic on Friday, go and see their collection and what they've been doing for the last 30 plus years. It's really pretty special. Okay? Any questions? Okay?
Good. Let's do the book signing. And thank you all very much for coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.